Louise, really good to talk to you once again. I know we're going to bring in some of our viewers' comments as well from Tessa a little bit later on. But the Prime Minister's told Andy today that she was doing the right thing to try and help people who are feeling the squeeze. What's your assessment? Is she doing the right thing?
So the economy is clearly slowing down. The fear is a recession. This isn't just in the UK, this is globally. This is what inflation does. It causes recessions because people and businesses suffer. So it is normally economic theory says when the economy slows down, you should boost the economy, and cutting taxes and increasing government spending is exactly what you would normally do. There are caveats. First of all, one of the problems is this rampant inflation. And by stimulating the economy, by stimulating demand, you actually increase inflationary pressures. But also at the time, the government is giving you more money by cutting taxes. On the other hand, if you have a mortgage, then the Bank of England is taking that money away because on Thursday we expect another rate rise from the Bank of England. So on the one hand, the government's giving you a little bit extra, cutting taxes, increasing spending via the energy price cap. But on the other hand, if you've got a mortgage and you haven't tied your rate, the Bank of England via interest rates will be taking more off you. So it's kind of weird. You know, one side is stimulating, the other side is contracting the economy.
And there's this, I suppose one of the criticisms which has been levelled at some of the measures is that a lot of what we're talking about at the moment are long-term problems, issues and price rises that could last for years. And some of these solutions are more short-term solutions.
And they are eye-wateringly expensive. Let's not forget that. In the worst year of the global financial crisis, we had a budget deficit spending more than taxation of about 150 billion. Just one policy, the energy price cap, looks like it's going to cost that amount of money. So we have an extraordinarily generous package because of the problems of energy. And the real problem is that Russia have invaded Ukraine, even if they move out of Ukraine, which who knows what's going to happen. But the point is, still, Europe is not going to be buying oil and gas from Russia, no matter what happens, right? Because Russia has proved itself to be a very unreliable partner, and Putin has shown his sort of true colours. And so this is not a problem that's going to be solved in 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. It's going to take a very long time to sort out this energy crisis that we take. So how long is this new government going to keep the energy price cap in place? Oh, and by the way, we haven't even talked about much support for businesses, and that looks like it's going to take some time to come in, and it may only be very temporary anyway.
Yeah, and Ukraine was very much on the issue for Liz Truss talking to Andy today. And all that feeds in, of course, to the energy crisis. And whenever we talk about the cost of living, Louise, I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that we get so many messages. Tessa, what's it looking like on the 5 phone this afternoon?
I mean, Louise, talking about extraordinary packages, but we've got lots of our viewers saying they still feel forgotten. Ian in Solihull, for instance, says, I've been on disability benefits for 30 years. He said it's always been a struggle, but now it's even harder. That's despite the measures today. Jay says the government needs to cut taxes for the low and middle income. We're the ones who feel forgotten. Eileen from Wales says the government is not doing enough for the old age pensioners. She says it's all about the bankers. I wonder, Louise, do you think there might be anything in this coming week that might make pensioners feel better? And also Lucy in Sunderland, who's saying working people who aren't receiving help from the state, people like her are really struggling too.
So the energy price cap, although is extraordinarily expensive, is still, most people will see a doubling, if not more, of their fuel bills from, last winter. So that's the first thing to say. Even though the energy price cap is this massively generous, very expensive policy that somebody will have to pay at some stage, most people are still going to see very, very large increases to their energy bills. So that is highly problematic. The worry I have is that this energy support isn't targeted at the poorest. Everybody gets the benefit. And the second thing is that we have an energy crisis. There's not enough oil and gas around, or particularly gas. And so what you need to do is encourage less use that's what the price mechanism does, right? The price goes up a lot, people use less. So what we need is far better insulation in our homes, alternatives to our homes like heat pumps. We need all these things to actually reduce the amount of gas we use, rather than just this very crude mechanism of a price cap. And particularly, I would have preferred to see a targeted support at the most vulnerable.
Okay.
You know, I'm more than, and then the extra money gone to reduce the use, particularly home insulation, which is almost being completely forgotten.
Can I ask you one final question on sort of big picture? Because the Prime Minister is in the United States and the dollar is looking particularly strong at the moment. The pound has dropped against the dollar. How is that going to impact our ability to borrow money in a really volatile economy?
So the first thing to say is absolutely sterling has collapsed against the dollar, 37-year low, but actually the Japanese yen and the euro are also very weak against the dollar. The dollar has been very strong because it is not dependent on Russia for its energy. Fracking has meant that now America is energy self-sufficient. Therefore, it's not facing the big increases in prices, particularly for gas. But also the American Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, has been ahead of other central banks in terms of recognizing inflation and pushing up interest rates, which tends to support the currency. So there's a couple of reasons why the dollar is particularly strong. Then the issue, well, is sterling weak against other weak currencies? And it is. I am not going to say we are facing a currency crisis, but the fact that we are spending way more in support compared to taxation means we are reliant on overseas investors funding our huge government spending. And we should be, this is a reminder that we should not take that for granted. We are spending way more than we get in a tax, and we cannot do that long term.
Louise Cooper, it's always a real pleasure and a bit of an education to talk to you as well. Thank you very much for your time on 5 News. Lots to learn and lots to take away.